Welcome back to season 3 of The Mandalorian. As promised, Corey and I are back once again to cover this epic television show. But with us now as co-hosts, and in addition to the show, is some voices that you may know from our gaming group. We have Richard and Tessa with us to go through and help us break down this season of The Mandalorian. How are you guys?
What's up?
You got to talk, Richard.
Oh, come on. That's enough. I didn't want to talk over somebody else, you know?
But you have to remember,
we do that enough in game.
It's an audio podcast as well, so they can't see you giving people the positive two fingers.
Right now, Richard is Casper the Friendly Ghost.
But before we get started, as always, we need to let Corey pay the bills. So, Corey, tell them how they can find us.
Pay the bills, eh? Yeah, you can find us if you check in the description of this episode. We have a link to our YouTube page. If you head over there and hit the subscribe button, leave us some comments on all the videos that we've got over there. We have the first season of The Bad Batch for all you Star Wars fans, as well as The Masked Singer, Superman and Lois. There's some other shows that we've talked about on there as well. Give those a thumbs up and hit the bell for notifications. All of that is allegedly helps us, and yeah, that's all we got. Because that's the only other place you can find us.
And don't forget to ring that bell.
Corey does not believe in that bell. He thinks that it's a false flag. All right, guys.
I've heard things. Let's just leave it at that.
All right, guys, let's break this down. So season 3, episode 1 of The Mandalorian kicks off with the armorer working on a new helmet, which I noticed right away was very small. So we knew it was for a foundling / youngling. I don't know what they consider the kids in of the Mandalore. But I'm gonna go with youngling because
I thought it was.
Well, I think they're still younglings, because foundling refers to the fact that they're orphans,
right? The orphans,
and that's always been the thing. So they're still younglings because that's just a general term across the entire Star Wars verse. But you have that foundling is the adopted orphan that they've brought into the Watch.
But we don't know whether he's adopted or whether he's actually born into. So we'll figure that out later on. But he is. She's about to give him his oath, and as we know, the oath of the Watch, which Death Watch, the Watch, however you want to look at it, is that they are a very militant group within the Mandalorian, and her sect is very, very set in the old ways. I
have a question, though.
Okay.
We saw that she was in there forging this, and actually 2 questions. And then she walks out with it. How long do you think that they were standing outside that cave?
Well, if you notice, she works pretty quick. We also don't know that it was all the same day. Like, she could have been working on it for a while, and then when she walks out and she presents it. So we don't know what the time frame is.
Well, even if you go back to season 1, when she made the armor for Din Djarin, she told him come back in X amount of time.
Yeah. So
that ceremony was preordained. It was a preset thing. They weren't just sitting there waiting for her to make that helmet.
Did you see them all sitting out there going like, oh, good Lord, what's taking her so long? Good gosh.
How long do I have to sit in this water? My feet are getting pruned.
Yeah, I just assumed that they were doing other parts of the rites and rituals while she was doing that.
I like the idea of that she had like a tape measure and went around his head to see how big the helmet should be, because it fit perfect right on his head.
Look, she is a professional, sir.
She definitely knows what she's doing.
Exactly.
Do you think she went to Sherwin-Williams to get that paint to change the colors?
Even going back, like I said, to when she made the armor for Din Djarin and she made the whistling birds and everything, she told him it was going to take some time. So this is definitely not a 20-minute job. And if you know anything about forging, that was probably a 3 to 4 day event, even if she worked all day doing that. It definitely, and then the paint drying. I mean, that was.
And the circuitry, putting in the circuitry and everything.
Oh, yeah, she had to wire all of that.
Yep. So as Corey, as they are, as she's presenting him with his helm, and she has him start to take his oath, she's about to christen him in the waters when she realizes that there's something amiss, and she yanks the kid out of the way, and a giant sea crate dragon, as far as I can consider this thing to be.
It's an alligator.
I don't know exactly what the creature is. I wasn't able to find it in the creature catalog for Star Wars, but it's a giant alligator with a turtle shell is basically what it comes down to, and it was hungry. But the Mandalorians band together, they fight this thing off, and they try to do their best to stop it, which they were losing. They were basically about to get taken down. The heavy was basically trying to take everybody down. He's trying to protect the kid, trying to protect the armor. Everything was just kind of haywire. And in comes Din Djarin in the N1 fighter, which I was so good to see that.
I do have to give some props to the CGI with that creature, though. I'm not sure how much actual special effects, real special effects were used for this thing, but if there were any, it mixed well with the CG, and so it was hard to tell what was real and what was, props, if you will.
What was real and what was Memorex? Yeah.
Yes.
What was your initial thought about this scene, Tessa?
I thought it was great. I just called it a giant space gator, especially with the death roll that it did, pulling that guy down into the water, and then the armor going in to save him. It was a great representation of how, everybody goes for everybody. It's never just every man for himself. Every single person was there trying to cover everybody's back, and how quick she was to stop him saying his oath and pull him into safety, because she sensed that was a really, really cool representation of how close knit this community is.
The my initial thought on this when it first started, I saw it, I was watching it, and I was like, are they showing us Din's oath taking? Like, is that what this is? And my mind was just like, this has got to be what this is. This is awesome. Like, I'm really excited to see this part of it. And then when everything kind of kicked off, I was like, oh, this is epic. And it was crazy how it all kind of played out. But Richard, what do you think about the idea of them kind of, because I feel like they played that on purpose. Like, I don't know anyone who didn't think that at first.
Yeah. So, when it first started and she first lit the forge and she kind of started working on the helmet, and you realized it was a helmet, and then she painted it that blue, and you had that first assumption that it was going to be a flashback. And my first thought was, holy crap, is this Sabine Wren? And then I had to dial it back a little bit and go, wait, no, it couldn't be Sabine, because Sabine had a family and the Death Watch wouldn't have dealt with Sabine, so the armorer wouldn't have done that.
Right.
My second thought was Bo-Katan, and especially with that blue. And then again, same thing. Dial it back. Bo-Katan's got a family, so the armor wouldn't have been doing it. So then it absolutely became this has got to be a flashback of Din Djarin earning his helmet. And, so that was definitely the flashback appeal was definitely there. The nerd moment as you run through Mandalorians in your head is there. And then, yeah, totally. 100% that was an alligator, as Tess says, that went into the death roll. And as far as the guys from the Watch looking out for each other, even the heavy, he runs up, and the kid is trying to distract the gator, even when that gator comes at him, the heavy runs up and just, body slam, body pushes him right out of the way and starts unloading. So, they're definitely they're definitely a group, but I think what some people may hopefully most people know at this point, but Death Watch is a terrorist group.
Yeah, they are.
as much as you want to look at that and say this is a tight family, they're good people, et cetera, in Mandalore history, they're not. They are a terrorist extremist group. They separated from most of, way back in the Clone Wars, they separated from most of Mandalore, and they had their own thoughts and processes on how things should be run, and they did not agree with the Mandalorian government. So,
Yeah,
there's also that.
I feel like I think that you're right in that respect, that they are like, they were formerly a terrorist group, but I think that she's obviously, this is post the downfall of Darth Maul, when he was in control of the Mandalorians. And I think that once that happened, I think that Death Watch split off into different groups of Death Watch, and I think that the Armorer took a bunch of them in, started bringing in foundlings and younglings, and started rebuilding her own version of Death Watch. So I think that like this version of Death Watch is slightly different than what we know the original, what Tar Vizsla was
they dropped the death from it. They just
Right.
refer to themselves as the Watch.
Right.
And so that could be them trying to separate from the terroristic ideals that Death Watch had. But
or
the
Disney
Armorer
trying to cover that part up.
Yeah.
Well, no, because Disney was 100% responsible for the Clone Wars from the get-go. So that's not Disney trying to fix itself.
Yeah.
But the Armorer has definitely put time and effort into building the sect of the Watch by collecting foundlings and trying to grow that group and build it up. She definitely tries to hold to the old ways of Mandalore, even as Bo-Katan mentions in season 2, kind of to the detriment, and as Corey will proudly say, Sasha comes in and, she's like, oh, he's one of those, So, it's the Watch is definitely still an extremist group. You just have to figure out how extremist they are.
Right. Corey, what when Din goes in, I was interested to see if she was like, get out. You're not one of us. Leave. How'd you even find us? Like, what the hell? But we saw from last what was it? No, was it Book of Boba Fett? Or was it just last season that he actually was hunting them down? I can't. It's muddled in my brain right now. Was it? Did it happen in Book of Boba Fett when he first?
No, it wasn't in Boba Fett. I think he was looking for them towards the end of season 2.
Okay, all right.
Are you talking about when he went to find the Armorer to get help with the Darksaber, learning to wield it?
That was Boba Fett, wasn't it?
No, that was
okay.
No, that was season 2.
All right.
That was before the
everything.
That was before the Luke Skywalker Moff Gideon thing.
You're correct. Got it. My brain is back in order again.
No. That was Boba Fett. Yeah, no, that was Boba Fett. When he visits the Armorer and they fight for the saber, that was Boba Fett.
Remember you said why they bring him in there, why they do an entire episode about Din Djarin during Boba Fett. That just it seems stupid to do that. I do remember you making comment about that.
Yeah, that was Boba Fett.
Well, yeah. I mean, he there were a couple episodes in there, but I didn't think it had anything to do with that.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. The Armorer tells him, you removed your helmet, you're no longer one of us. And he's like, yeah, well, I'm going to fix that because you told me I could. And she's like, you can't because the planet's messed up. You can't go there anymore. And he's like, yeah, well, that's bunk because I have proof that people have been there since it was glassed, which the Mandalorians destroyed their planet originally during their civil wars, which is why they were living under those domes. So for the Empire to show up and just glass the entire thing, they didn't have to do a whole lot. But the fact that he now has proof that someone has been on that planet, which was supposed to be irradiated, poisonous, uninhabitable, nobody can go there type of situation, which I have my own theories on that, so we'll talk about that towards the end of this kind of section. He's like, challenge accepted, I'm going. I'm gonna bathe in the waters under Mandalore, and I'm gonna redeem myself as part of the Watch, which I'm still going, like, why? I don't understand why he wants to do it, Corey.
You got me. I mean, he was already been given doubts previously from other people saying, this isn't, they're not what you think, but I guess he's just still gung-ho about it, and still, even though he's hearing that stuff, he doesn't want to listen, so to each his own, I guess. But I guess he just wants to prove that, he's still noble. I don't know.
I think it's not, I don't know if it's noble or just loyal. Like, he wants to prove that he's, what he did was out of necessity, not because he didn't believe in what they're doing. But I want him to forge his own path with this whole thing. I don't want him to go back to just being part of the Watch, which I'm sure is probably what's going to happen. But the fact that he's trying so hard right now to ingratiate himself back in with the armor, which it's family, there's nothing you can do about it. To him, that's the only family he's ever known.
Family.
So it's important.
You gotta say it like Vin Diesel.
Yeah, they're gonna have a big barbecue at the end of it with that big ass alligator.
Maybe the gator.
Yeah,
that gator's food, baby.
They just need some blue milk to dip that tail in to get some of that gaminess out of it. So yeah, I think he's obviously, if he's going to Mandalore, it's like, how do you come back and be like, yeah, I was there? Like, does he take a selfie?
Yeah,
does he just take a selfie while he's in the water and like, see, I was here? Like, she's gonna want proof.
How does
that come?
That was something I was wondering too. He's like, I'll prove it to you, and I'm like, how the hell are you gonna prove it? You know, you don't have a camera, you don't have a cell phone to take a selfie that you're there. What you can do? Bring back a flask of water from this thing, which could be from anywhere. I mean,
hologram.
That's not a bad. Yeah, everything's recorded. They can record everything. But if you think about it, and again, Corey, I know you hate when we do this, but I'm going to go into a little bit of it. The mines, the springs are in the mines of Mandalore. Those mines are also where the original forges were. So if he comes back with a piece from the forge or something like that she would recognize being an armorer, then that would probably be proof enough that he was actually there, and then she could assume that he did, go to the waters. So that might be the way he proves it, is just bringing something
so he's
back.
Hoping that there's something still there for him to bring back.
Well, I mean, if there's nothing there, then he's fucked anyway.
Yeah.
I also believe that they call it the living waters, right, because I feel like there's a special aspect to that water that is different from all the other water that was present on that planet. And that if he brings this vial of water that he bathes in, she will know that it's the true living waters, because there's going to be some aspect, some mineral, some thing in the water that is only present in that water, which would explain why it's so special to that group, because that's the only water source that has that, and that's why they call it the living waters.
If you
that's my thoughts.
If you think about it, especially as a blacksmith, if you do certain things with metal,
you have to quench
they react certain ways. And perhaps, like Tessa's saying, perhaps there's some sort of a mineral that would be in that water that when it reacts with the Beskar and does something to the Beskar. So, she'd get that sample, and then she'd have to, maybe quench something in it, and it would react differently,
So at the beginning of it, when she was creating the helmet, she poured like a bluish liquid into the forge a little bit. That could be like a remnant of the living waters of Mandalore. So exactly. She may actually know exactly what it looks like. So for him to come back with, and this is playing off of that, your idea, Corey, of just bringing back a vial. If he brings that back, she would know exactly what that was. And in order for him to get it.
That was my idea.
Yeah, that would. Well, Corey said it too. He's like, he's going to bring back a vial. But yeah, no, I think that's like the really the best, like that's a great like notion as to how to do that, because I was thinking about like, what the hell did she pour in that forge at the beginning? That could be what it was, for all we know.
Hey, Dave Filoni, are you listening?
Exactly.
I'm saying it right now, because I mean that's where I got my idea of the vial, because I truly believe that's what it was.
Yeah.
She poured like, I think she might have like a set of vials of this living water that she was able to grab before they had to leave, before the planet got quote unquote destroyed, which I really don't think it was, but we'll get into that later. And that's part of the rite and ritual that they're going through with this kid, is anointing him quote unquote with these living waters from their home planet.
Yeah.
But then my question is if it truly is destroyed, there's only a finite amount of water. What are you going to do with these foundling younglings when you run out of that water? Are they not going to have the same rights and privileges because they weren't Because I mean, this is a very fanatical group.
She's gonna adapt. She's gonna adapt the rules to meet what she needs. I don't think anyone else. She's the only armorer right now that's in existence. She's the only one who knows how to properly create Beskar armor and how to properly work with it. So if she changes how it's done, there's nobody out there to say that that's not right. And I can't imagine that not having any water, because I'm sure she's made plenty of Beskar armor, that even if it's just the smallest amount of that has to be in it, it's probably ritualistic, not actual, like, not something that actually has to be done. It's just something that you've got a piece of Mandalore, of the actual living waters of Mandalore, built into your armor, and that's a kind of an iconic thing, as opposed to an actual like thing that helps to create that product.
Well, let's be honest, it's never going to get to that point. He's going to go there, he's going to find out it's still there, he's going to come back, tell her, then they're all going to go back there, and he's not going to have a problem running out of stuff.
So let's do this real quick. I know we didn't want to go too far.
Prediction. There's a prediction.
Yep. So that's exactly it. This is Corey's prediction. My prediction on this is that obviously we know that Mandalore is still there. If they wouldn't, it's not that they're not going to do that.
They're not going to spend an entire season talking about going there, only for it to not be there.
So here's my thought on it, though, is if you think about Moff Gideon, when he was talking about the fact that he conquered Mandalore and all the Mandalorians, he mentioned that he conquered Mandalore, which means Mandalore more than likely is not actually completely destroyed, but the Empire has been putting out this myth saying, oh, that planet is poison, you're gonna die if you go to it. Mm-hmm. Like there's no reason to go anywhere near it, you'll be destroyed if you go to that planet, because it's actually still there, and they're using it as they're extracting Beskar, they're trying, they're doing something on that planet, and then they're hiding it from everyone else. And I think that was the Empire that was doing that. Moff Gideon found out about it because he used to be in intelligence. He found out that the planet wasn't actually destroyed completely, and he's been going back there doing his little hidey shit in there. That's kind of where my brain was going.
What they're doing. I have a theory of exactly what they're doing on Mandalore.
Hit it.
So my theory is, like you said, they created this story that Mandalore is destroyed, it's uninhabitable, toxic, you can't land on here without dying, to keep everyone away, to keep them from showing up. I think what they're really doing is they destroyed the cloning facility as we know it.
Mandalore?
I think Mandalore was another cloning facility. I think they have multiple.
Gotcha.
I think they conquered Mandalore, they took it over, told everybody it was destroyed, but there's really a cloning facility that they're using these Beskar ores and all these other mines and minerals that are only found on the planet of Mandalore to help with their cloning process. I think this is all part of Palpatine's cloning project that he worked on for decades.
Could also explain like the whole, because they know that the clones were made from Mandalorians. It'll also play in if they're trying to push a little bit of the lore from Bad Batch into things, because they have Omega and everything else. That could be something else where they're saying that all of this stuff ties together. Not loosely, because it's obviously the animated versus the live action, but it's very easy to say that each of those things could be a thing.
I think Mandalore is the beginning of Project Cinder.
Okay.
Because they said the planet was destroyed, don't come here.
Right.
And that's basically what Project Cinder is whenever Palpatine dies, burn everything, destroy everything, don't leave anything left.
Right.
So I think Mandalore being called uninhabitable was where the idea of Project Cinder came from.
I like it. What are you saying, Richard?
It's definitely not out of the realm of possibility that they are using it to hide something. During the initial construction of the Death Star, they actually had areas of space that were considered off limits, and the Empire patrolled. And if you went anywhere near those areas, that you were basically shoot on sight. They had cargo ships that they never came more than once. They always had different paths that they were supposed to take, because it was a very, very top secret project. So to say that this is the way it is, as far as the planet being unusable, uninhabitable. Even the surface is not, you don't even land there type of thing. It's not even a good waypoint. It is not something that would be new to the Empire to do. Of course, the only problem is that the Empire is defunct because
Yep.
Mandalorian is post Jedi,
Right.
pre Force Awakens, which brings into question: is this possibly something maybe early beginnings of the First Order and Starkiller Base?
Well, final
Yes.
point on this that I thought about just now is you also have to remember that Jawas and Tuskens exist after
Yes.
Tatooine was glassed. So if they can survive and a world can be glassed and come back from it, even though Tatooine is not exactly a good place to come back to, it's still possible that Mandalore is feasibly salvageable.
Well, Jawas are not specific to Tatooine either.
They believe that Jawas are like they were one of the two so the inhabitants of Tatooine went underground when what are they called? The Hammerhead dudes. When they I can't remember names. Richard said it's gonna happen. They went underground. The planet got glass, and they think that the Jawas and the Tuskens are actually part of the same people that branched off into two evolutionary tracks to survive living underground on Tatooine after it happened. It's a theory.
But what I'm saying is they're not specific to Tatooine, and we saw this in season 1 of Mandalorian,
correct,
where he was not on Tatooine,
correct,
and he came across the Jawas with the Sandcrawler and all that. So the Jawas are not specific to Tatooine. They either have the ability for interplanetary travel, or they just so happened to grow up and have the exact same building schemes, which would be just absolutely coincidental,
So leaving whatever planet they're on, because we don't know, heading back to Navarro, there's a hyperspace trip which Mando decides to sleep through, because I'm sure after you've traveled through the freaking hyperspace a million times, you just don't sit there watching the blue lights go by. However, Grogu is quite interested in what's going on, and out of his little pod,
wouldn't that be a short trip anyway?
No.
I mean, how could you?
We only see a lot of times. So this is the problem: is when you see a hyperspace trip happen in the movie, they go into hyperspace, and then you see them come out of hyperspace, but you have no idea how long the actual is. Hyperspace lanes can go from one side of the galaxy to the other, depending on which one you get into. That's why they need nav computers and droids to help them figure out where to go.
So if it takes a long time, why are they called hyperspace?
Because it's a lot faster than going through space.
So have you ever heard of light speed? And
yes.
So it's the speed of light, and something is still X number of light years away. So that's the difference. So if you're going from so just by the same token, the sun is how many light years away from the planet Earth, and you're talking about traveling entire galaxies. Even at the speed of light, you're still going to take time.
Yeah.
And of course, hyperspace is faster than the speed of light, but we don't know just how much faster.
Right.
It's just like the difference between riding your bike to get from point A to point B versus driving your car to get from point A to point B versus flying a plane from point A to point B. You're still traveling the same distance, but you're going to either get there a lot faster or a lot slower,
right,
determining what method you use.
It's not a Star Trek wormhole.
Yeah, it doesn't fold reality together and then just pop it apart. It's an actual tunnel they have to go through. So Grogu is watching and kind of looking out in awe of everything, and he sees the shadow of a space whale known as a Purrgil, and he is just mesmerized by the fact that there's something else out there, and it's not a ship. He can kind of tell it's not a ship, I think. And in my brain, he's going, "There's a fishy out there, and I want to eat it."
So that's a throwback to Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Yes.
When they have there's an episode in Clone Wars where the Separatists are going to attack a clone hospital ship, and the Jedi and the clones are using the hyperspace lanes, and at some point in time, somebody says exactly what it is, and they're like, "Oh my god, this is a bad idea," because of these creatures and how they're attracted to the energy signature that is put off by hyperspace engines and stuff, and that's what those are. They're actually attracted to the energy signature put off by your hyper engine.
So
I have a theory about what the Purgles mean.
Yep. They're a linchpin to several stories in upcoming stories. So hit it. I know where you're going. I'm pretty sure I know exactly what you're going to say. So go.
I have a feeling this means that Grand Admiral Thrawn is coming in, and we're going to see him live action pretty soon because of this.
Which means
because
we're going to get Ezra as well.
Yeah, because the Purgles were directly responsible for taking Grand Admiral Thrawn out of the picture in Rebels. And I think I don't know if we'll see him in Mandalorian, but I think it's definitely going to be responsible for bringing him into the Ahsoka series because she's the one seeking him out.
Yeah.
I
also believe that
he gets brought in, I think it'll be at the end of the season, and then that'll lead into Ahsoka saying, "Oh, Mando knows where he is. Let me go find him. He'll show me."
I think we're going to get both of those as a guest appearance because we saw Ahsoka in Boba Fett. When Mando went to visit Luke and Grogu. And so I definitely think that they're going to cross paths again sometime this season. And knowing that Ahsoka is hunting Thrawn, I 100%, I think we're going to see a Thrawn and Ahsoka before the end of the season, if only as a teaser / jump into the Ahsoka series that we know is supposed to launch later this year.
Thoughts, Corey?
Sure. I honestly I didn't know how deep this went, so I don't have any. I don't have any.
So when you watch Clone Wars and Rebels, you'll see where it comes from. But I think that for me, seeing them in there is like, hey, by the way, we're acknowledging that the Purgles are around. And by acknowledging they're around means that you can all start to remind yourselves that Thrawn could possibly be around, that Ezra could possibly be around, that Sabine Wren can possibly be around because Ahsoka is around. And because we know that at the end of, was it Rebels or was it? Yeah, it was the end of Rebels, wasn't it? When they went looking for him. At
the end of Rebels, they show
Sabine
up and they say they want to go looking for Sabine and Ahsoka say they want to go looking for Ezra.
Now though Sabine hasn't been brought into the story yet, and I think she will be brought into this story slightly, just kind of as a hey, I'm part of one of the ruling families, one of the clans of the original Mandalorians. I back Mando as being the new Mandalore, like that kind of thing. Maybe she just kind of pops in for a little bit, but introducing all those characters and tying this universe together and this timeline together, the Purgles showing up is literally them kind of giving us that wink that this is going to come down the line. And I think that was like the perfect, and it was just a touch. Like they didn't do anything with it. They just, you see the outline, you see the silhouette, you see Grogu like, oh, what is this? But one of my favorite things about this scene is the fact that Grogu apparently has a little elevator inside of there, and he has a little hatch that he can get into the main cockpit, and I love that they built that into
I wondered about that.
Yeah, there's a little hatch behind that seat that he can get in there through, which I thought was freaking phenomenal.
You say that giggle so hard. I'm not gonna lie. Just seeing him whoop and then just show up in his lap, I was like, oh my god.
I tried looking at that a little bit later. Once they land at the planet and he gets out, you see him, in that little cockpit, and then he comes out. I'm like, but you actually see the cockpit where Mando was sitting, and I don't see where he would have come out of.
I got your answer for you. So the N1 Starfighter is set up to have an astromech droid in it, which is where his pod is. The way the astromech droids get into that N1 fighter is they get underneath of it, and it pulls them up into the cockpit, into that spot, and their dome becomes the top of that cockpit. They built the dome in that elevator is still there, and his egg is in the bottom of that, so he can drop into his egg, and then that hatch opens, and his egg drops out. For him
to float away, but for him to go from being in that into the cockpit,
his egg is in there, dude. It floats. His egg is in there, and it's an elevator to get
him
up
I get what Corey's saying is where is a door behind the seat?
Yeah,
It's just
That's
talking
what
about
Corey's
more
looking for, is the
hyperspace
door behind the
flight.
seat.
it's a rotating column cylinder in there.
Yeah.
Like I can show you the design for the whole thing in my head. Basically,
Yeah.
the egg is inside of there, right? It lifts him up and down so he can go up and into the little
Yes.
thing, and then the egg
Agreed.
comes down, and that's kind of where he lives or whatever. He is comfortable. When it goes down to the bottom of that cylinder, there's just a simple little regular like old hatch door that they have in Star Wars. It turns, he walks in, he comes back, it seals back the other way.
Menswear.
It works. It works.
I don't know if you end up watching this episode again, when he gets to the planet, watch that cockpit. I just don't see where he's walking into the cockpit.
He climbed in from behind his shoulder. If you watch, he climbs in from behind his shoulder. It's behind the seat where that little.
Yeah, that's where the puppeteer was.
Well, there's that too.
I think it was visible in the end of season 2 of The Mandalorian when he inherits the NB, the Naboo fighter. So I think because he gets into the cockpit with Grogu, and then Grogu goes from his lap and into the dome.
Mm-hmm.
So it's established that something's there. Whether there's enough room for it to happen physically, I don't know.
It doesn't even have to be a hatch. It could just be an opening that's big enough for Grogu to get through. Because I mean, that whole ship is sealed. Once that cockpit closes, it's sealed. So it's very possible. It could just be a porthole back there.
One last thing I'll say about this is I understood the elevator function of the egg going up and down, but listening to you describe it just now, Vic, is making me see Grogu go up and down, going elevator go up,
elevator go down,
elevator go up,
whoosh,
elevator go down.
It's just like knocking on the glass. Go faster. So when they get to Navarro, this is a completely new place. Navarro 7 is not how we remember it last. It was grimy, dirty, dark, like it was the new seedy underworld for that sector of the galaxy. But now it's a thriving, booming, bustling city, where it was a wasteland prior. And Grief Karga is now High Magistrate.
Yeah,
High Magistrate.
And it's actually evolved, and you can see the evolution of the city from the first couple episodes to the last time when Mando showed up, and Grief Karga used him and Cara Dune to go after that outpost. You can see how it has definitely continued to improve, and they've established law and order, and now that they're obviously using technology to advance a lot of the city, So and he's done a lot to clean it up as well.
Yeah, they've apparently got a very big budget.
He mentions that they're the jewel of the Outer Rim, and that they've opened up trade routes with some of these other planets.
Yeah.
So they're becoming a central hub. Of course, the thing that got me was when he pulled in and he's just like, and they're like, state your business. He goes, oh, I'm just here to see an old friend. And they let him land. I mean, How do you do that? I mean, you have zero authorization. You're just like, oh, I'm meeting somebody. I mean, what?
No. All right, come on in, dude.
I mean, you're not going to tell us. You're not going to tell us who you're coming to meet. You're not going to tell us who you are. You're just like, I'm here to see an old friend, and we're just going to let you in. What kind of building does that?
Considering what happens later,
when this camera cuts away, I'll tell you who it really is. But I need to keep it a secret from the viewers.
He threw him a coin. But considering what happens a little later, which we'll talk about, their security is not as good as it should be anyway. So Grief comes out. He's looking bougie in his new outfit, with his two little droids that are holding up his train for his cloak. I'm like, when I first heard it, I heard ding, 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 and I was like, what the hell was that? And then I noticed
it was
that there
the
were two
robots
little
going down the
robots
stairs
back there. I'm like, dude, what are you doing?
I noticed that too, because I heard it, and then you could see them, and it was the sound of them going down each one of the stairs.
I saw the outfit, and I was like, what does he have in that thing? Because I didn't notice the two droids at first.
When they were bouncing down the stairs, all I heard in my head was them going, God, man, slow down.
You're treating us horribly. Were they little Dios? I didn't get a good look at them because I'm blind.
No, I don't think so.
It looked like they were just
like
I almost wish they were little Dios.
I think they might have been that little rat droid.
Oh yeah.
They looked like I think they looked like that. Like it was a tire, and then the rest of the body was up above it.
Yeah,
like it was on
that
just a
rat
wheel.
droid is like a standard multi-purpose, just utilitarian droid anyway. So that's very possible that's what it was. Hi, buddy. You have something to say?
Okay.
But here's a quick question for you. Why does it seem like all the black characters get capes?
I think they're just going with
Are
the
we really
trope.
doing
I
this
think
right
they're
now?
going with the
I
trope at
mean,
this point.
Lando, Grief, Moff Gideon.
Well, Moff Gideon had a cape because he wants to be Darth Vader.
I mean, this is just kind of like, hey, it's out there.
My only surprise with this part of the conversation is that it didn't start from Corey.
I'm throwing Corey a bone.
Thank you.
So
He's been too quiet, so I was giving him something.
Grieve is trying to sell Mando on a plot of land. It sounds like just a ridiculous real estate salesman. Come on, it's a beautiful tract of land right near the water. You really want to have it. He just wants him to stay there, obviously because he knows he has instant protection. But he's really like, I don't know whether he's getting like kickbacks from somebody for selling his land.
No, because he's trying to buy him to stay as the constable, or not the constable, but like the sheriff or whatever.
Sheriff.
Yeah, the marshal.
Yeah, he wants him to, and when he proves why he wants him to stay as the marshal right after this, when they get into that gun battle,
well, he tells him right away
he wants him to stay as the marshal.
Well, he tells him right away because he asks, he goes, well, "What happened to Cara Dune?" Yeah. And he says, "Well, after she brought in Moff Gideon, they recruited her," which is a great segue for the series that was supposed to happen with Gina Carano.
Yep.
And writing her out of the Mandalorian this way saves face for everybody and doesn't hurt anything. They just like, oh, she was recruited, she's now special forces, and she's gone. So we don't need to talk about it anymore. It's moved.
I feel like it's also a very sly way, because we know that they were talking to her again about possibly trying to pull her back into the world.
Yes.
Right.
And by doing it this way, if that were to end up happening at some point, which it's a very contemptuous situation right now, but if it were to happen, this is the best way for them to have handled it, by not killing her off in the series, by saying she's just off doing something. If she doesn't, it doesn't hurt anything. If she does, then they have that segue to get her back into the story. And I think that was the best way for them to handle the situation.
Yeah, they're leaving the door open.
Very diplomatic on this, because if they would have killed her off, Disney would have 100% have declared a setting, an opinion, like this is where we're at, and would have completely alienated the people that were not in agreement with what was going on. So by saying that she's still alive, but she's just not in the story right now, appeases both sides right now. So
it's almost like they're saying, yeah, we messed up, but we're going to try and fix it here, but we're still not bringing her back. We'll kind of clean it up a little bit.
It's not even an ultimatum that we're not bringing her back, because how many times has it basically been, if you say the right words, we can fix our relationship.
Right.
Yeah.
And so if it boils down to
that they're okay with her, like neither
right,
one
and
of
that's
them
the thing is that
have a problem.
And that's the thing is after getting to that point where they've gone and we've come to here, they can say they've left that door open for any projects that may come down, or in some cases a special appearance because they need her to fill a role specifically in a storyline, because sometimes you write these stories 2-3 years in advance, and it's hard to rewrite a story on the fly just for one person. So by not completely closing that door, they've left it open for her to, even if it is just to do a cameo spot in another episode.
Right. So Grogu has apparently come into his powers while Karga's trying to get Mando to buy a plot of land. Grogu is using his force powers to spin himself in Karga's chair. And
force powers so bad.
He was stealing red Skittles like crazy.
Those were Red Hots.
I called them
They
Skittles.
did look like Red Hots to me.
They're Skittles to me, so to each their own. But either
brown.
way,
Boston peanuts, baby.
There you go. See, there's another red thing it could have been. M&Ms. It could have been anything. Either way, My point
Yeah,
is,
because they have Skittles and M&Ms in a galaxy far, far away.
Okay, my point is,
They have macaroons on a galaxy far, far away, so
That's more believable.
my point is, he
You know how
was
hard
using
it is
his
to make those?
powers. He was using his powers in abandon. He was using his force powers without any kind of repercussion to his health, to his stamina, to anything. So we have obviously just witnessed the next level of he powered up. He leveled up.
Let's be fair, though. I mean, bringing a red hot from a bowl that's 4 feet away is a little bit different than trying to bring down a gigantic monster like he did in Boba Fett.
Right.
Yeah, but even if you
it's
go back
still
to go back
proving-
to
you still
Attack
see
of the Clones,
childhood. You still see the childhood in him because
Right.
we know that he's trained with Luke for at least 2 years before this episode. So he's got at least 2 years of solid training with the only Master Jedi that we are aware of that still exists. Hint, hint. Victor might have a cameo later.
Exactly.
He's had at least 2 years of training. But if he would have done something like this in front of Luke, Luke would have not approved because you're not supposed to use your powers like that. But it still shows his youth, even though, yeah, technically he is 50 years old, and to us that seems, very old. He's still very much a
Hey.
child.
52.
I'm almost 50.
Corey.
but you go back to Attack of the Clones and you'll remember that when Anakin is playing with the pair and showing off to Padme, he specifically says Obi-Wan would be very mad at me if he saw me doing this.
Exactly.
Mhm.
So it's 100%. It's something that they're not supposed to do.
Right.
But Luke probably never got that training from Obi-Wan and Yoda to begin with, because of course we know how little training he truly had from Obi-Wan. But he probably didn't give that speech to Grogu, and even if he did give that speech to Grogu, Grogu's like, "What do I care?"
Obi-Wan.
I believe Luke did give him that speech, and I believe that was part of Grogu's decision to go back to Mando, because he might have felt Luke was being too strict. That, I can't do the tiniest thing without getting in trouble. I don't like this. Thanks for what you did, but I'm going to go back to my dad.
I'm going back.
Obi-Wan wouldn't have room to talk anyway. He did the Jedi mind trick on stormtroopers.
Yeah,
Let's not forget
he
that.
He also had a very massive love affair with Duchess Satine. So I'm just saying, Duchess causing trouble.
Well, and he uses the Jedi mind trick on the guy that wanted to sell him death sticks. He's like, you don't want to sell me death sticks. You want to go home to your family.
Yeah.
So Obi-Wan had a love-hate relationship with the rules, but that was because of Qui-Gon, because Qui-Gon was very much a black and white, follow the rules down, letter of the law is how things go.
Mm-hmm.
And so
except for
Obi-Wan,
when it came to betting on pod races.
That's true.
No, Qui-Gon was not a black and white dude. Qui-Gon was very much, he understood things needed to be played based on the situation. That's why
Qui-Gon was with the living force. It's because and you're right, because Obi-Wan does tell him, he's like, if you agreed with the council more and you just kind of towed the line, you'd be a master. So you're right.
Yeah. Qui-Gon he wasn't fast and loose, but he understood that there was no such thing as, going by the letter of the law for every single situation, that certain situations needed to have been.
That's why my boy Mace was the boss, because he understood that as well. Anyway,
we're getting on a tangent.
But so my point is everything Grogu did, whether it was the smallest to the biggest thing, taxed him, because even when he was just picking up frogs with the Force, he was still very tired afterwards. This, nothing at all. He just is flouting the fact that he has control of the Force. But it also comes with the fact that, he has had 2 years of training, which, as we know, was probably more training than Luke got to have, with Yoda and everybody else. So I think that he's definitely come into his own. We now know that he can do the things. He can use the Force to the point that he's going to be able to be even more helpful to Mando. But also in that same thing, we saw that he is... I don't know if he was talking, but he was communicating with Din to me. Like, did you guys get that feeling that he was maybe talking to Din, and Din might kind of start to understand what he's saying a little bit? Because when Grief Karga was asking him... Huh?
Are you implying they were telepathic?
No. So Grieve had said something to him. He's like, his name is Grogu, and he's like, yeah, whatever. And Grogu actually made a sound when he said that, and Din looks at him. If you watch, Din looks down at him when he does it. So I feel like Grogu might be actually speaking in his own language, not necessarily common, but he might.
Was that his language?
He might. I'm not paying any attention to him, so he's trying to force me to. He might be developing his own speech pattern as well too, which I'm interested. I want to happen sooner than later. So I think Mando might be starting to understand some of the contextual things that he's saying and doing. So
just like anybody else that you spend a large period of time with. I mean, just in the time that we've been, all gaming together, we can now understand each other's, grunts and, certain inflection voice. And like we can understand. Yeah. So like we can
Nobody can understand Victor typing though.
Yeah, we didn't say anything about my typing, fool. We're talking about talking.
I am very proud of myself that I am now able to.
Everyone eventually understands victories. Yes, everyone understands victories after a while. It's very simple to figure out. I can teach anyone how to understand victories very easily. Just look at the letter next to whatever I was trying to type that doesn't look like it should be there. Separate it. That's a space. If there's an N between there, it's a space.
If there's a B in between two different words, get rid of the B.
There you go. You got it. Anyway, moving on. So there's a problem. Karga is being called out because there's a problem with some pirates. As soon as she said that, I was like, oh, please let me see Hondo and Naka. Oh, let it be. But we were disappointed. It ends up being someone named Vane. I think it was Vane. Yeah. I think his name was Vane.
Yeah.
He shows up and he's like, hey, I want a drink. Give me a drink. And Karga's like, that's not even a bar anymore, you idiot. It's a school. It's my school. You're not getting a drink there. Come with me. We'll go into my bougie office and we'll get a drink. And he's like, no, I'm not doing that. I want a drink from here. I'm like, dude, there's no alcohol in there. What are you planning on doing for a drink?
I mean, honestly, I see what was going on here and what they were trying to do in terms of the show, but this was the dumbest conversation. It's like, no, I want one from here. What? He just told you it's a school. What do you think there's going to be alcohol?
He has not been back for 2 years, so it's a real weird coincidence that he just happened to show up now.
Yeah, when Mando was there, yeah.
It was all a big dingling competition. That's all it was. It was who still had the power, who still was in charge. Well, and Vane thought that he was in charge, and that power play was, this is our bar. You might have changed it. It might be a school now, but this is our bar, and you're going to bring me alcohol here because I still hold the power. And this was my favorite because it went back to Star Wars real roots of being a space western.
But I mean, I'm the first one to tell you I don't like westerns except for Star Wars. And everyone's like, that's not a western, it's a science fiction. It's like, no, that is a straight up western. I don't care who you think you are, you cannot say that Star Wars is not a western.
Even Mando's theme music is a western.
Yeah, absolutely. But when they started doing the look at the gun, look at the face, look at the gun, shift the cloak, look at the gun, look at the gun. I was like, oh, I can't wait for this shootout.
Yeah, the cinematography lines up with all the classic cinematography of old westerns. The gunshot, the
close up of him pushing his robe back and exposing the gun.
Yep. It was perfect.
But part of the penis measuring contest was where he specifically says, he's like, my captain's money built this bar, and so as far as I'm concerned, it's still a bar.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of he hedged his bet, and that was the line. That was for a term that we've used before. That was the hill he was going to die on, and
yeah. And then you've got Mando showing up, basically playing the role of Doc Holliday,
right?
Being in the corner, like, You guys want to start some trouble?
You really want to do this? I think he was impressed with Karga's fucking draw skills, though, because I didn't even know Karga was that good, because he missed a lot in the prior seasons. I'm just saying. Like, he wasn't hitting Jack when he was shooting that gun.
Well, that's because it didn't fit along with the story at the
All
time.
of a sudden,
No,
my man is like the quick draw McGraw of the space world. And yeah, and not only that, but he didn't shoot Vane. He shot his pistol, which then hurt Vane, and that ain't an easy shot to make. So I think Mando was a little impressed, and then when they started to draw on him, Mando was just like, this ain't happening. You know, pop, 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 and everything's good. So
Mando's over there sitting there saying, I'm your Huckleberry.
Right. This is when we find out about Cara Dune becoming a special forces, dropping off Moff Gideon at the Space Hague for his war crimes, which is obviously he's been incarcerated for 2 years at this point, which explains why Navarro has had this big boom, because it's had 2 years to develop into this big, hub that it's become. But again, Mando's like, I'm not going to be your sheriff. Any thoughts from anyone whether or not he ends up going to get what's his name from Tatooine and bring him over there?
I'd love to see him. I would
love
love
to go fit. I can't remember his name. Richard
Clay.
Was
it Clay or Colt or whatever it was? He's in the
dude that
the
had
individual back to tank.
Yeah, the dude that had.
He's in the back of the tank.
Oh yeah,
the guy that had Boba's...
Timothy Oliphant.
Yeah. I think he would make a good sheriff for Navarro, because and
it's possible that Mando suggests, hey, go. Yeah, Boba Fett doesn't need him, but it's possible. Din Djarin says, "Hey, I've got a person you could use," and we know that the foreshadowing was there.
Cobb
Vanth. There you go.
Thank you.
So the foreshadowing was definitely there that we would see a reappearance by him, because why else show us the back to tank and say that it's in use and show his clothing or whatever it was that made us think, oh my God, that has to be him.
Dude, if I was Timothy, I'd be like, I could just shift right over here to Mandalorian. I'd be happy to do that for you. I'll be happy to.
I got some time in my schedule.
Right. So after they have their conversation, so if Moff Gideon has been taken to be tried for his crimes, I don't feel like they're going to take him out of the story. I feel like that there's going to be a big escape episode at some point, and he's going to get loose, and I can't wait for that to happen, because I want to see more.
Well, we've got to have a big bad, and right now we don't have a big bad.
Right. I want to see more about
who's our villain.
Exactly.
Which is where I feel Grand Admiral Thrawn is going to come in. I feel like he's going to be the overarching big baddie that links Mandalorian and Ahsoka.
I say Thrawn breaks Moff Gideon out. Moff Gideon comes after them under his rule. I don't think we actually get to see Thrawn. I don't want to see Thrawn in this. I want to see Thrawn premiere, like debuted in Ahsoka.
God, no.
I want
to see Thrawn.
Yeah.
I think it's going to happen backwards. I think he's going to break out and then run to Thrawn.
Okay.
Basically, we don't know where Thrawn is yet, but he's going to go find Thrawn, saying these people have taken over. They're gaining too much power. They're taking the power away from the Empire, and us rebuilding. We need to do something to stop these people, to break this rebellion. And
so we know the First Order has to happen, and that will happen. And that
Republic.
Thrawn is the one who could orchestrate that.
The thing with Thrawn is that we saw at the end of Rebels, he was essentially disgraced.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a thing where he could run back to the Chi Empire, and he's got his family there. The Thrawn name is it's actually Mithranadu. So he could go back to the Chi Empire and acquire or regain his position within the family.
Mm-hmm.
He was somewhat disgraced, though, even amongst the Chi, because of his work with the Empire.
Here's my thing with that, though, is there's nobody to hold him to his disgrace. Everybody who was above him is gone.
Yeah.
So there's no one.
Well, because there was only so many Grand Admirals.
There's no one to go after him and say, "Oh, you're whatever," because he's going to probably be the only one that still remains. The Emperor's in hiding. Vader is gone. There's nobody to say what he can and can't do or what he has or hasn't done. So I think if anybody, he would be. To me, feels like he would be the one to start the new order, because he's going to make this in how he wants it to be.
And actually, by the time he had attained the Grand Admiral title, he reported directly to Emperor Palpatine. He was literally held on level, as far as Palpatine was concerned. He was literally held on level with Vader.
Yeah.
Thrawn was more of a tactician, while who could plan the attack and who could do all that stuff.
Yep.
Whereas Vader was a blunt force instrument you send into fight to do all the work.
Vader was a hammer that saw everyone as a nail, and that's how it works out. So IG-11, let's talk about the robot, the 2-ton robot in the room. We find out the reason why Mando's there in the first place is he wants to get the remains of IG-11 for him to reactivate him, because he's the only droid that Din trusts. He saw the droid protect Grogu. He saw him come to his aid when he needed it. So he wants IG-11 to go with him back to Mandalore. And Grieve is like, that thing is that's toast. That ain't happening. You can't fix what's that broke. And Mando is like, yeah, I'm gonna do it anyway. Corey, please tell me you saw the the blatant references to movies in this scene. You did see it, right?
In which scene?
With IG-11, once he powered him back on, he went for Grogu. And that thing looked exactly like Terminator, the way they were doing it. When
there's a Terminator, but I could also, when it was crawling across the floor, you could also say it was like a zombie that was missing its lower half that was crawling towards some. Just to irritate you.
Corey had and you know why. But yeah,
it's also kind of somewhat Borgish.
Yeah, there's that too. It was just, once he powered him on, you thought he was gonna, because like his white lights came on, and that's the indicator in anything. If you have a green or white light in a robot, it usually means they're good. If you see red, it usually means that they're bad. And he went white at first, and he's like, oh, he's back. We're gonna figure this out. And then his original programming kicked back in, and he went back to being an assassin droid. And he went straight for the last target that he was given. He saw Grogu, he went straight for him. And I love this entire scene. Like, everything about this scene, it made so much sense. And the fact that he is trying his hardest to get him to work either way, even though he knows that he's screwed, because that thing was about to kill Grogu until that protocol droid dropped Grief Karga's head onto it. Why does he have a gigantic bust of himself in his office?
This honestly,
because he's Grief Karga.
This bothered me a little bit, because we just saw the High Magistrate be this, gun-toting, just sharpshooting, awesome cowboy with a pistol. And then he's just screaming like a damsel in distress at Mando, shoot him! Shoot him!
Yeah, why weren't you shooting at him too? You have a pistol, we saw it. But
exactly.
Also, they knew, we know, at least I know, and most know that they weren't going to get through that armor anyway, but either way, they were trying. But yeah.
Since when does Mando start dropping dad jokes?
Since he became a dad.
Because he's a dad.
You didn't drop dad jokes before you became. Well, you might have. I'm gonna roll that back. Let me roll that back. You may have, however. Come on.
Okay, since when did he tell jokes? Since when was he telling jokes? He's always real serious. And then he's, well, that's using your head.
But when he's with Grogu, he's a different person.
Season 2, he started getting a little more, I don't want to say quippy, but
feelings.
More fun with what he was saying. He was getting more loosey-goosey with his differences. He's living in his field.
Guess who's got 2 thumbs and no feelings?
Right.
This guy.
But yeah, I get you, but they're trying to show that as he's growing with Grogu, he's changing a little bit, and that's why I said, like, for him to just go back and be like, I'm gonna go be a member of the Watch again. I just don't see that happening with the way he's developing personally with Grogu with him.
But I have a theory on that. I think he wants to go back to the Watch because he wants to get armor made for Grogu. I think he wants Mando armor for Grogu, and I think
more than his chainmail.
I think what's going to happen long term here. I'm not going to say I think this is going to. What I hope happens is long term, Grogu continues his Jedi training, but also knows the ways of the Mandalore. And now we have our next gen Tar Vizsla. He will get the dark saber from Mando when Mando dies. He'll inherit it, and then he will be the next Jedi Mando to unite the clans.
I think that
he's gonna have a helmet. He's gonna have a helmet, but he's gonna have holes cut out for his ears to stick out of.
He's like, hold on, or it's gonna have the ears. He's gonna be like, I gotta get these
ears.
in here. Hold on,
He's gotta tuck them in.
Get my ears in here, and then I can put my helmet on. But I think off of that thought, though, it could also be that he is trying to get back into the armor's good graces, so that when he does finally raise the Darksaber as the unifier of the as Mandalore, sorry, not as the unifier Mandalore, but as Mandalore, she will already be on board with him being the leader, and then everyone else will come back, and at that point he could tell them what the new rules of being a Mandalorian are, as he sees it, which is the right of whoever has the Darksaber. So
right, because going back to what you said, not a whole lot of people understand that the word Mandalore technically means the leader of the Mandalorians.
It's a title.
The Mandalore is a title that is supposed to be owned by one person, that is the head of all of the Mandalorian clans.
Though Paz Vizsla's going to fight his ass off to not have to listen to him.
Yeah,
for sure. So
that's because he still thinks the saber belongs to him by birthright.
By birthright. That's not how that works, buddy. You need to do your homework. Grieve introduces him to the Anzellans, correct?
That would be the right word.
The Anzellans. Babu Freak. Dude, I don't care what anyone says. I love this character.
These guys are awesome.
I love that there's an entire group of them in the story now. I don't think Babu Frick was there, but like I just love the fact that there is an entire group of them living on Navarro 7 in what is a huge warehouse for them, but is a little tiny living space for Mando, who's sitting Indian style on the floor as they try to fix IG-11. And they come to the conclusion that it can't be fixed. Like it's broke. He can't do anything about it. Sorry. And he's like, well, if I get a new memory module, will that work? I'm like, you can get a new memory module for an IG series assassin droid, but that's not how that works either. And this is going to kind of upset me a little bit. So Corey, I don't know if you know this or not, but the IG series of assassin droids were sentient. They gained sentience. One of them gained sentience, and then he turned around and gave all of the other IG droids their own individual sentience. So they're all actual. They're almost as close as you can be as being actual people, but they're still droids. And
well, if you're gonna just get one
to do that, like how are they going to put a new memory card in him and hope that it works?
You might. What's the point of getting just the memory card then? Why not just get a whole new freaking robot?
Because there are no more IGs. The IGs.
Put it in something else then. Why does it have to be the IG? You're putting
because the IG is
hold on. I'm going somewhere with this. Because the whole reason why he wants that droid is because it was the only one he trusts. Well, if you put a new memory in it, it's not the same droid. So just go get whatever other droid you find.
But I think his idea is, and I don't know how they're going to pull this off, but somehow they're going to have a backup of IG's programming, and he's going to get the new memory card and he's going to put it in, and once that happens, IG's going to come back as himself.
It's not just the memory and the programming.
Right.
It's not just the memory. It's some of the innate programming and the physical design of that droid, because that droid was originally designed as a assassin bounty hunter type of droid. Like, obviously this is 11. We see 88 in the original trilogy. But we've also seen some of these working with other characters in Clone Wars. We see an IG droid on more than one occasion. About the only thing that would have the same capabilities as an IG droid is there was a straight 100% assassin type droid that makes appearances back during Clone Wars, but we haven't seen one since. And Anakin and Obi-Wan had to fight them on more than one occasion.
He should go find Mr. Bones.
Oh,
That's what he needs. That's who he needs. He needs Mr. Bones. I just don't see how they managed to pull this off. I know he wants to have IG-88, but I just don't think that it's something that's going to be possible. Sorry, IG-11. Brain. I just don't see him being able to pull that off. And if they do, they're gonna have to do some serious like plot armor type bullshittery in order to make this happen. In my opinion, I don't know what they're gonna do. They're obviously will give them their due with it, but I don't feel like it's necessarily a thing. I think if he's gonna do anything, he needs to go back and like just get one of the droids from Palimoto. He's worked with all of them. Like, at least he knows that they know what they're doing with his ship. Then they can probably, because all he needs is he needs them to track. I know he wants them to fight with him, and that's kind of the bigger thing with having the IG with him, is that he knows he's a competent warrior and that he can fight with him and alongside him, and he will prioritize protecting Grogu. And I think that might be the main reason why he wants him back. I just don't see how they pull it off.
And you remember, he has an innate distrust of droids.
I think it's just focusing on Mando's more emotional side. Again, we're looking at how emotional Mando is becoming, and he's emotionally tied to IG-11, and just wants that emotional kickback. And I think in the storyline that we're going to see, once he realizes this is not happening, you might want it to as much as possible. It's not happening. It's going to be a setback for Mando, and it's going to force him to reach out. It's going to force him to start having to trust other people that he didn't want to in the first place. Maybe that could be a bad thing that comes back to haunt him. Maybe somebody can turn on him. Who knows? But I genuinely feel like I don't think that Disney's going to make the decision of, oh, we are going to make this magically happen, because like you said, logistically in the Star Wars universe, it can't.
He needs to.
So if they do, no, it's not going to work.
What is bad motivator? R5?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
He needs to go
from New Hope.
If he's gonna have a little Jedi Yoda, then he should have a Jedi robot, a Jedi droid.
Yep.
He'll be all set. So after all of the, he's figured out I can't do anything about this. I gotta go get. He has to go on another side quest, because that's what this is. We have another side quest, people. It's just what he does.
What every episode's gonna be.
He leaves Navarro 7, and as he's leaving, he is confronted with the space pirates, led by Vane and his bulldog face buddy. Richard sent it to me, and I can't remember that. It's not Aqualish. That's not him. That's the Walrus guys. What the hell was it? Fuck, Richard. What was it?
That did look like a bulldog. I will say that.
They're the bulldog. That's what I call them, the bulldog face people. And Richard sent me a message. He's like, "Here's the name of them for later, because you're gonna forget." And sure enough, I forgot. And they're the bulldog face people of Star Wars. But they all come after him, and this scene, like. This whole episode has been good for action, good for nostalgia, and this scene just brought back feels from some of the only parts of the first of the prequel that I actually enjoyed, which is the space fights. And he was just destroying these guys. Like, his abilities in that starfighter were freaking awesome. Between the rolls, the dodges, the flips, the feints, it was badass.
The only problem I had with it is the entire time I literally kept saying, "Sonic Mine, Sonic Mine, Sonic Mine." We need that.
maybe they
and-
didn't equip it.
I mean, and admittedly, that was always like the main weapon on Slave One.
Mhm.
So it's entirely possible that that the Naboo starfighter doesn't have that capability. But how epic would it have been to literally just hear boom and then see that explosion?
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, I mean,
just saying.
A couple of things. It was very obvious that this scene came directly from episode 2.
Mhm.
That scene with Obi-Wan and Jango going through the asteroid field, them hunting each other, switching places on who's hunting who. Very obvious that's where this came from. Number 2, you're not going to tell me that the space pirate captain is not a direct callback to Pirates of the Caribbean. You know, everything about that captain was 100% Pirates of the Caribbean.
I was about to make the statement and get your guys' opinion on it from each of you. I hated this guy. I did not like this character at all. It looked it looked like it was practical, which is fine, but it just did not look to the quality of an actual Star Wars like being.
He's a throwaway that had one scene and you'll never see him again.
Yeah, but it was so badly done.
That's why I'm saying it's a direct call to Pirates of the Caribbean, because that is a character that could have been thrown into Pirates of the Caribbean and fit.
Yeah.
I feel like they wanted to nod, but yet not nod to another huge IP in the Disney universe.
He looked very swampy to me.
Yes.
It was a bunch of like seaweed and algae.
Yeah. Like, and I get it. Like, I mean, we have the Mon Calamari. We have them, but like this character, like it looked like. What is it? It looked like what is that? It's like it was like tinsel, like thick green tinsel that they sprayed with slime of some sort, and then like used as noseless skull face. I hated. This is the one thing I hated about this episode was that character. Like as soon as I saw him, I was like, no. I lost track of like what did you say, Corey? It like takes you out of the immersion of it. Like that character was so abrupt in the way that it did not fit that it literally broke the immersion into the episode for me. And that doesn't happen a lot because I can let a lot of shit slide. I deal with Corey on a regular basis. But it's just that whole thing just ripped me right out of it. As soon as I saw him, I was like, what the fuck? What is this guy? And like I was so stuck on what is going on with this dude that like everything else I had to like dive back into the thing. But I hope they never ever show this guy again. I don't want him to have a toy. I don't want them to like make a Lego figure out of it. I don't want this thing to ever show up again in Star Wars. I need it to disappear.
If I'm ever out,
I don't think he'll ever show his face again because I haven't heard any review about this scene that has been positive. I think every review that I've heard has been the same.
If I'm ever out hunting toys and I come across one of this character, I'm buying it just for you.
Of course you are.
And his name is Gorian something or other. Just I can't even remember the name. It's like
you shouldn't. Just wipe it from your memory. It does not exist. Whatever. It was just it was a void that there was something there, but we just don't know what it was.
Gorian Dre.
We never talk to it again.
Well, even Mando's line directly afterwards was
never trust a pirate.
A direct nod to Pirates of the Caribbean when he said, "Never trust a pirate."
Yep.
It literally took me out of Star Wars, and I felt like for maybe 45 seconds I was watching Pirates of the Caribbean.
But we've had pirates before. I mean, as even Victor mentions Hondo Tanaka, and we know about the exploits that Hondo Tanaka has done.
Right. Yeah, and we've seen space pirates all over the place. We've read about them in the extended universe, and I've never seen or heard of anything like this guy. Like I know they just made him up for this, but they did a bad thing, in my opinion.
Even Hondo, his whole group.
Yeah, I would have been okay if Vane was the captain. And they use Bulldog Boy in Vane's place on the planet, and then you find out that Vane is actually, the captain. I would have been okay with that. Like it fits.
A Dread Pirate Roberts moment.
But this whole thing, I can't stand it. So we're moving on.
One last question.
yeah.
How would you have felt if they panned to the cockpit on the main ship? How would you have felt if that in that captain's seat was Hondo?
Oh, dude, I would have like, yes.
So
It's the same way I felt when I saw Cad Bane. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like
yeah.
like as soon as you see that, you're like, oh, this shit's getting good now.
the problem I would have with Hondo being in that seat is Rise of the Resistance is lore, it's canon, and Hondo has effectively turned a leaf.
Hmm.
He's still a pirate, but he's not a shitty pirate.
I would have rather have been Wanda Sykes' character from Bad Batch.
Right,
She
but
became a
No.
captain.
Hondo's character isn't good in Rise of the Resistance until during the First Order time, and we're not there yet. So this still leaves
That's
that
what I'm
period
saying.
of time for him
It's
to be that.
Corey, why not?
No.
Why? Come on.
He's just gonna repeat.
Moving
No.
on.
Corey's like, we're up against time.
Yeah, moving on. So we're heading to Kalevala, the ancestral home of House Kreese, where their castle resides. Mando is obviously trying to connect with them, which is again why I say, like, why are you trying to reconnect with your roots with the Watch and then turn around and try to go to Bo-Katan and get her on board too if you're not trying to eventually raise the Darksaber? But he goes to talk to her and she's just sitting there pissed off with the world.
How long do you think she was sitting in that chair before he walked in?
I don't know. It looks like she's the only person on the damn planet though, besides
Yeah.
that damn droid of hers.
She just sits in that chair and pouts 24/7.
Every day, same place.
Yeah.
Wears her armor and everything.
Yeah, every day she just gets on, gets dressed, and sits on that throne, pissed
She
off
just
at the
sits
world.
there. She should get like some kind of cushion because that looked like it was like a stone.
There was a
Chair.
cushion. There was a very
There
thin
was a
cushion
cushion.
on there.
Yeah,
Very thin.
was there? Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was thin.
Okay.
A little
It was
brown
like it was a
cushion.
real dark blue pillow she was
Yeah.
sitting on.
Yeah, it's something. But she basically says, look, you know, you took the Darksaber, which I needed in order to keep everyone together. As soon as that happened, everyone turned and left me.
This is your fault.
I don't. This is another point in the show where I'm like, that's bullshit. Like, her night owls would not just walk away from her. There's no way in hell they just said, yeah, you don't have it, we're done. They've been with her before she had it. They've been with her after she had it. Like, there's no way that the night owls just left. And her crests are all down that thing, so they are definitely like that's showing that she is still the head of the night owls. And
Well, yeah,
to
but
have all of them leave her, all of them, I can understand whatever Mandalorian she grouped in, but to have her true faithful, the people that follow her, possibly her own clan, we don't know that she's the last of her clan. That's never been said. How do all of them walk away from her?
because the way that I think it happened is they all became so loyal to her and followed her based on this promise of I'm going to get the Darksaber. I'm going to get this. And when that failed, this whole purpose of loyalty that they felt to her was empty. So they had nothing left. And I think what's going on is there might be another person out there that, you know, hint hint rebels might be pulling loyalty to their side now to get the Darksaber.
Well, and
But
don't
I
forget
also
that
think it's going to be a great opportunity for Bo-Katan to kind of turn into the antagonist. And I think that would be cool.
So what you're
And
saying
don't
is they were
forget
in
that
it for themselves.
Well,
I mean,
no.
you go
Because
back
if
to
they did,
Mando
if she didn't
history,
get the saber like she had said, they're like, oh, okay, well, we're out then. And
well,
so
look at Mando history. There's a reason why it's damn near impossible to pull the clans together. They don't
and
work well together. They don't. Everybody's in it for I want what's best for me. I want what's best for my clan. Screw what you want. They don't get along. It took a Jedi Mando to pull everybody together in the first place. And then once he was gone, everything fell apart again. So it's
With-
very understandable why the Mandos aren't, you know, just willing to be so dedicated to one person forever. They're in it for themselves.
which in and of itself, and Corey's going to hate this, is a throwback to the Clone Wars. because Bo-Katan had the saber in Clone Wars, and she ended up working with Sabine, and they decided that Sabine's mother should be the rightful ruler, and they kind of all united under the Ren clan for a period of time, and Sabine's mother ruled Mandalore. So for Bo-Katan to want the saber, this is not her first attempt at getting the saber and trying to hold the saber.
Right.
So there's a lot of throwback there, and a lot of stuff that you, again, and this is why I say Corey's going to hate it, is you kind of almost, for some of the nuances, you kind of have to have seen certain episodes and certain story arcs of the Clone Wars to understand where I think season 3 is going to be going.
Hint, Corey, go watch the Clone Wars.
So
Okay, I'm gonna binge watch it tomorrow.
there you go.
The entire run.
One of the issues that I have with that, though, is the fact that she was able to do all of this and to pull all of these people together. She put together a fleet. Okay, she did all of this without the Darksaber, in the fact that, hey, Moff Gideon has been messing with us the entire time. He's been, disparaging Mandalore, the Mandalorian people, for all this time. We need to fight what he's doing, and they all band with her under that. And then I understand it, like, she's like, I'm gonna get the Darksaber back, but she didn't get the Darksaber back. But they all followed her for all of this time, up until the fact that he won the Darksaber from Moff Gideon and she didn't get it. And then she wouldn't take it, which I understand, we get, but I don't feel like it's right that she's just gone. But what I do agree with you, what I do agree with you on is I also have the feeling that she's going to end up being an antagonist in this, in that because when she's like, where'd she say it was, under the square in, what city was it? Anyway, under the capital city, that's where the mines are, that's where the forges are, that's where the living waters of Mandalore are. She's like, good luck. And I think that good luck said a whole lot, like, yeah, I'll be behind you, so when you die, I can swoop in and grab the saber.
If you listen to her voice at the very end, she goes, "Goodbye, Din Djarin."
Yeah.
It was very snarky.
She's very much going to go back and be like, yep, I'll pry it out of your cold, dead hands after you die trying to get on Mandalore. Yeah. I'm like, but yeah, if he dies on Mandalore, how the hell do you plan on getting off?
Right, but it opens up the door for, if the remnants of the empire,
the vampire. We've changed shows, guys.
Well, that's a new thing for Star Wars.
Space vampires. Well, there is the Yuzhan Vong.
when the remnants of the empire come and find her, aka the cloning people that are in charge of that, and they want to know where Grogu is, they want to know where all these cloning things are that they need for their facility, she can very easily offer his location up and say, whenever he's dead, like, I'll help you find him. And then if you back me up and help me kill him, I'll take the Darksaber, you take the kid.
And you get the Mandalorian. No, I think that how that conversation ends is you get Grogu, I get the Darksaber and the Mandalorians, and we become a fighting force for you. That's the only way. I think that's the only way that that the burgeoning New Order would agree to help any Mandalorian, because they know the trouble that they can
I would
cause.
Hate to see Bo-Katan become the villain, though.
Yeah, she turns heel.
She's an amazing character.
This is not WWE where you can have your face turn heel, and I can't. I just can't see Bo-Katan doing that. It's not anything that has ever been part of the way that she's ever been written, and to start writing her that way now. Man, I really think it would betray a lot of fans.
I know where you're coming at. I know where you're coming at, because I know she is hardcore in your heart. You love her. So this would be just heartbreaking for you. I know that. But we've seen hardcore faces turn into heels in Star Wars before. We've seen it. Count Dooku. We watched him be the good guy and then watched him turn.
I mean, it's true.
The one guy that he knows.
I mean, he's right, but he's right.
The biggest one.
100% right. But when you, but
the way they've spent so much time
so hard. She wants to lead the clan so hard. that if she sees the opportunity, she sees that chance to lead them and get that Darksaber and be where she 100% believes she belongs, she's going to take it. I mean, I know it's going to break your heart to see her turn, but I see it happening.
Case in point, she joined Death Watch.
Yeah.
She sacrificed every last warrior belief that her clan had and joined Death Watch, knowing exactly who and what they were.
She turned against her own sister.
Right. And now she turned the bend, which I think was the kicker, and I think in this case it will be too, that she's going to be the antagonist for a little bit, and then she's going to realize the error in her ways, and she's going to fall in line under Din. But I think there's a very good chance that she's going to try to do whatever it takes to get control of the Darksaber, and if that means betraying him, killing him, or whatever it is, I think she's down to do it. She's willing to fight him in a heartbeat for that saber.
Well, I think the Darksaber, obviously the Darksaber has always been her end game,
right,
for lack of a better term. And the fact that she's had it before and had that opportunity to lead Mandalore, but realized that Sabine's family was a better choice at the time, considering the threat that was going on Mandalore and the threat that was happening in the galaxy. The Kreese family or the Catan family was they weren't ready to do it, whereas Sabine's family definitely was. And so I think she's got she's got that overall picture, and she says what's better for all of Mandalore may not be what's better for me. So I would agree that she does kind of maybe have that burn that I need it. It's a Gollum moment. My precious.
That's what I was gonna say.
Need the potato.
I just had a new theory pop in my head. New theory. That
is it vampires?
With what I already think is going to happen. What I think is going to happen now is Mando, Grogu are going to go out. Bo-Katan is going to turn antagonistic for a little bit, give up Mando's location, work with the Empire cloning facilities to go find him. Grogu's gonna watch Bo-Katan kill Mando. And that's gonna drive Grogu to become the new Mandalore.
Or it drives him to hate, and hate leads to darkness. And he becomes, the next mini Sith Lord. And on that note,
you know how much Grogu merchandise Tessa would buy immediately if he went dark.
Hell yes.
Tessa would have all the Grogu stuff.
Do you know what she becomes if she gets the Darksaber? She becomes the bitch with the North.
The other thing though is that, as far as Grogu going dark though, I just don't see it. Disney's put too much into the cutesy.
Yeah,
I can't see Grogu going dark.
It'll never happen. But I still like the idea.
I don't see him going dark.
I like.
No, I don't see him going dark. But I feel like Bo-Katan killing Mando would be a driving force for Grogu to say, okay, now it's time for me to truly unite these Mandalorian clans. And I'm going to take what my father taught me.
He's still got some growing to do, though.
I was going to say, he's
true.
That's not going to happen for about 20 seasons.
True.
He'll be like Anakin and just start slaughtering people.
That was going to be the next thought. Is he goes into a rage, and Anakin on the Sand People comes to reference.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. We do want to thank you for listening. On behalf of Vic, Richard, and Tessa. Oh, sorry. I forgot to pause after your name.
Holla.
I'm Corey. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.
Later, y'all.
Peace out.